With Zenless creeping towards 6 months since release, I know many players, myself included, are getting closer to their free standard 5-star. While all of them have their pros and cons, none of them are going to be the right pick for everyone. So let's go over the options. If we're looking at raw potential, we have to start with Lycaon. As our only ice stunner in the game, he has it all. Stun damage multiplier, ice res shred, and fast fluid attacks. His only downside is his reliance on playing within ice teams. Right now, that limits him to just Ellen and maybe Miyabi if she ends up wanting a stunner. Another thing to consider is Lyda, who some might say is out to steal Lycan's thunder, but they can actually be played together for high stun uptime. Additionally, Lyda isn't a big enough upgrade over Lycan that you'll need to get him if you are using Ellen. Plus, Lyda's W engine can provide an additional crit damage boost for your DPS if you decide to stick with Lycan, but want to upgrade his buffing potential. His cinemas are small days and personal damage increases, but nothing worth aiming for in my opinion. Despite this, Lycan is my top choice if you don't have him and can make use of him, or you're in desperate need of a stunner. If you're thinking about picking up either Nekomata or Soldier 11, they're both solid DPS choices, especially in the early game. However, both fall off once you have 2 limited DPS options, so unless you really like either one of them, I would opt for another option. Again, elemental weakness and resistance are only a 20% damage and days increase or decrease compared to a neutral matchup, a far cry from Genshin's elemental immunity and Stariel's toughness bar. Unless we see a significant increase in weakness and resistance, or mechanics that require certain elements are introduced, elemental coverage is not something you should be aiming towards. I would only choose Nekomata or Soldier 11 if you need a DPS for the short term. However, if you are a Nekomata main, the C1, C4, and C6 are all solid upgrades if you want to continue investing in her. As for Soldier 11, her C4 and C6 are her only impressive cinemas. On the topic of DPS characters, let's talk about Grace. Unfortunately, with the release of Yanagi immediately after Bernice, Grace never got a chance to fall from grace. Ha 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 ha. Anyway, she's a decent alternative to pair with Bernice to access that dual DPS disorder magic that anomaly characters can bring. Outside of Bernice teams, Grace doesn't have anywhere that she really sees her true potential, although she can be used as a shock applier for Anton teams or an anomaly pairing for Piper. Some people have found value in her Jane teams, but typically Jane's hypercarry teams have a better performance. As for Grace's cinemas, while her later ones do provide some value, they don't push the needle enough to warrant choosing her for an extra copy, unless she is the only character you want. If you need a second anomaly character for Bernice or Piper teams, Grace is a good choice. Outside of that, I would skip her. Rina is in a similar situation to Lycan. Her best teams involve an electric anomaly character, but outside of that, she's usually outperformed by some of our A-rank supports, despite her low field time. While her 30% pen ratio buff is decent, it really only gains good uptime from C1 onwards, where it also gets upgraded to a maximum of 39%. She also benefits a lot from her signature weapon, which provides her with pen ratio to enable her buff, as well as energy regen and a team-wide damage boost. Her best teammates include Yanagi, Grace, and Bernice, especially if you have Bernice's C2, which enables further pen ratio stacking for the team. Rina's C1 is probably the most impactful cinema thus far, and I would potentially consider it your best choice if you already have Rina and actively use her. Similarly to Lycan, Rina has great value if you have one of her best in slot teams, however strong A-rank options push her out of contention in alternative teams. Finally we have Koleda, the soon to be forgotten fastest burst stunner in the game. With Lyda's release, he's more than likely to take over her spot for fastest burst stunner. Not only that, but he's also going to bring much more team damage than her almost pitiful 35% chain attack damage boost. All that being said, Koleda is still an insanely fast stunner and a good choice for Soldier 11. She can fill the stun role in other teams for the time being, however with anomaly teams not wanting stun, as well as the limited stun characters and Lycan all bringing significantly more team damage buffs to the table, Koleda just can't compete. As for her cinemas, C2 gives her a full energy refund after using her EX special, which you can trigger once every 45 seconds. Since Koleda's days buildup is tied to her EX, this cinema can be pretty impactful when you kill enemies in 1 to 2 stun windows, or even allow you to burn your EX at the start of a Shiyu stage to wipe the minions faster. Koleda isn't as tied to an element or archetype as Lycan or Rina, since her buff is pretty negligible, but that also leaves her easily power crept, as we've already seen with Lyda. So let's summarize. Lycan is my top choice if you need a stun character or plan on running an ice team. Alongside Rina, he's the most power creep resistant of the standard characters. However, both can really only perform to a high level in their respective niches. Nekomata and Soldier 11 are respectable DPS choices if you're lacking a carry for your second team, as well as Grace being able to fill the second slot in a Disorder duo. Rina's a best in slot choice for Electric Anomaly and Bernice C2 users, and also has the best early cinema. Koleda is just budget lighter with less buffs, but is the best choice for Soldier 11 users who don't want to pull lighter just yet. Let me know in the comments down below who you chose. Leave a like if this video helped, and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Personally, I'm probably going to pick up Rina for my Yanagi team, but there's a chance I grab Lycaon instead. Anyway, I'll see you later.